It's pretty funny that people think that I hadn't put the two and two together. And the hilarious part is the things that are being done in an attempt to try to stall, lollygag, slow walk. I know what's going on. And to be blunt, I'm letting people go ahead and go on a string of hanging themselves. Alright? So, first off, ultimately, the reason for attempting to slow walk, get the can down the road, is because you have individuals that ended up misappropriating funds and, committed embezzlement, fraud, by taking fraudulent business loans out. Yeah, well, ultimately, pretty much mixing up the difference of the interest rates between a business loan and a home loan in an attempt to launder money because of the fact that that money was not initially theirs. It was mine. All right. And ultimately, the same individual has not paid rent in 15 fucking years. All right. So we're talking 15 years of back rent. So the hilarious thing is, this case goes forward. Ultimately, this house would end up being considered a crime scene. All right. Where proceeds of crime. Now, ultimately, as the person that had been stolen from, I could choose how to handle the situation because ultimately the other individual would have to liquidate their assets, declare bankruptcy, ultimately too, have to pay full restitutions, and keep in mind, we are talking at the local rate, as far as rent goes, of property, considering that the house is paid in full, not to mention that, but all the other money stolen. They're kicking the can down the road because they're hoping that they will be dead before they ever have to go in front of a judge and have to, be tried. Well, simultaneously, the attempt to hide the paperwork that had been doctored, unless they, ended up destroying it, which the destroying of evidence in a fraud investigation, that right there is going to be considered evidence tampering. So any individual on the take, within any legal institution, they're going to be so fucked. And let me tell you, law enforcement, they are absolutely just they are treated so well in prison. So well, So their retirement plan was clearly prison, because best believe internal affairs is not going to turn a blind eye to that shit. Plus when you ended up having, the feds involved, they're going to go ahead and, are they going to clean house? Especially when that same police department had been declared one of the best task force within the country, for a specific type of crime, to end up finding out that there's corruption within that specific task force. Oh, national fucking news. Like, we are talking an absolute fucking powder keg. But the attempt of misplacing documentation that would end up going ahead and proving the doctoring and forging, of paperwork in an attempt for an illegal conservatorship, to try to gain, general power of attorney, despite the fact of the individual clearly being, decisional, and the conversion negligence and, oppression of civil liberties. Can't forget that. Oh, the systematic oppression. Can't forget that. Oh, not to mention that, but the attempted murder for hire plot. So you've got attempted manslaughter, obtaining property under false pretenses. Like, that individual is fucked. Like, they are absolutely fucked. Like, what have they won? They have won free rent at Club Fed. They know that. All right? Plus, if those documents don't, magically reappear, that right there will be considered evidence suppression. So any individuals within the legal system that, ended up going ahead and aiding and abetting capital fraud, like mortgage fraud. Oh, that right there. Oh, that scandal is absolutely going to fuck up everyone involved. And understand, that's not just going to be a black eye on them. Like, ultimately, the finances of every relative that they have is going to be audited by the federal government. Every family member. So following the money is going to be pretty fucking easy. So they understand their cause is lost. They understand, too, that, there's only so much and so far an individual can go to try to insulate and isolate the incident. But at this point, there have been too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, there have been too many ears. And the funny thing is, some of the individuals that ended up being complicit at one point or another in the attempt of Ponzi scheming out, settlement money that was supposed to go to an individual that, ultimately with the numerous different attempts to scams, will committing identity theft, insurance fraud, credit card fraud, bank fraud, mortgage fraud, like, oh, there is no way that this doesn't blow the fuck up in every individual's faces, including the individuals in the court that wanted to go ahead and, deprive the individual of, the presumption of innocence, because of the defamatory nature of which the incident had started. Oh, and the damage, the reputational damage and loss of opportunities. That domino effect is going to fuck up so many different layers of the government, so many different law enforcement institutions, so many law firms that ended up being complicit. Like, so many. All right? And ultimately, all of this because of individuals wanting to suppress evidence, which suppressing evidence, exonerating an individual, is considered evidence tampering, which would mean that any, previous fraudulent or, factually, inaccurate assumptions of an individual who had been deprived of presumption of innocence, it would not only completely exonerate them and expunge their record, but also go ahead and make sure that the prosecutor, district attorney, as well as every individual in that court not involved in that case, as well as employed at the time by that court and by that state, will end up going ahead and having the entirety of their arrest history checked to see if any type of evidence tampering or other improprieties, whether it be bribery, extortion, coercion, fabricating false, confessions. Ooh, it is going to be fucking brutal. It is absolutely going to be fucking brutal. I'm here for it. I am absolutely fucking here for it.